Okay, so that should be recording now, I think. Right, I wish I was better with technology, I really do. Right, so, Ro, thank you for joining us. This is great, this is awesome. We have been wanting to do this for a while, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great we can finally get you in, and although COVID has kind of put us in a weird situation, it's a bit of a blessing too, because we can get more people in now to see the meeting and the chat to you and stuff like that as well. So yeah, that's cool. Right. So we're kind of here to talk about all things songwriting. And yes, I do have my notes. I feel like a news presenter. But yeah, we're mainly here to talk about songwriting more than anything else. And, so some of the students here might be interested in, becoming a writer themselves as part of their career, or, it might just be something you're looking to do for fun as well, because writing is good for you. So, yeah. Either way, we're all curious about this craft and wanting to know more. And no pressure, Ro, but we are expecting all the answers today. So yeah, I'm going to start with a bit of a quote here. I love a good quote, and this one always kind of sums up songwriting for me. Annoyingly, I don't actually have the person who said it because it was in an interview one time, and I didn't write down the name, but it was someone famous. That's all you need to know. But they said the songwriting process is simple, but it's also complex. It's very mechanical, but actually, I suppose some days it's really organic. It's super obvious, and yet, come to think about it, it's completely inexplainable at the same time. Oh, and to top it all off, people are unique and always find their own bloody way of doing things. So you want to know how I write songs? I might need another minute. Yeah, always love that quote. It might sum up today's chat more than we know. But yeah, so now we've got our special guest Ro with us here today, and I'm going to embarrass her by doing a bit of an introduction. So just in case anyone's not aware of kind of Ro's career or anything like that, and just wants to know a bit more, I'll try and summarize it here in a couple of paragraphs if that's possible. So yeah, Ro is the kind of writer that always finds unique, approachable ways to discuss important and complex issues. In her songs, the raw human experience is portrayed through modern lyrical stylings and catchy hooks, but the rich emotional underbelly of her themes and messages is always there. Every song she writes somehow feels intricately personal to her and yet completely universal to those listening. She is a word shaker, and all the proof we need that words and music matter. So the word shaker is a bit of a deep cut for any book thief fans out there. So yeah, it's Ro's favorite book, and it's definitely one of mine as well. So Ro is a Derry local who studied the same courses at NWRC that you're all studying right now, before leaving to focus on her writing and own artistic pursuits. Working tirelessly as her own independent artist, she eventually received a slot on the BBC introducing stage at Glastonbury, which propelled her on to an even larger audience, performing across Europe, North America, India, and beyond. Most notably, she supported Snow Patrol on their UK arena tour in 2018 and 19. You played the O2 and Wembley, right?
Yeah.
That's a cool thing. That's a cool thing. As a recording artist, Ro has crossed the 1 million stream mark on Spotify and received regular support and plays on numerous UK and Ireland radio stations. Her music has also been featured frequently on broadcast TV shows on BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Netflix. Ro won the prize for Best Emerging Artist at the 2018 Northern Ireland Music Awards and is currently the proud recipient of the PRS Foundation Momentum Fund 2020. Success can be subject to a number of factors, but I will always consider Ro's ability to write a damn good tune to be at the top of that list. So yeah, with her plans to debut a new sound and live show very soon, the coming months look set to be some of the most exciting yet. So yeah, we'll get to talking about that at the very end, what's kind of next, and I have a little bit of insight, but you can tell us more. So yeah, thank you again for coming, and before I ramble on anymore, let's just get started, I suppose. I will. You'll definitely catch me rambling at various points on way too long. I tend to do that, which is why my notes are here. So, right. Let's. I suppose we will. I'll figure out the right points to come to your performances. But let's just start where all these talks seem to start. Okay, which is how did your musical journey begin? So before we even, I suppose, get into writing, how did the musical journey begin? Did someone introduce you to music?
Yeah, like my dad would always play Thin Lizzy and U2. He's a massive U2 fan. Around the house, we were always going to concerts, like big concerts, whenever we were wee. And then I started writing and creative writing in English whenever I got to secondary school. Or I think it started in P7. I've always kind of wanted to write, even if that was stories or short stories or poems. So that came about through that, I suppose, because whenever I didn't get a guitar. My brother got a guitar for Christmas, and I stole it off him, to write music, to write songs. And the creative English really led to that, I think. And then started writing whenever I was about 14, 15, and joined the Nerve Centre Hot House. I was doing loads of stuff in there. They're great if anybody's looking for like a kind of group thing to do, because it's the Hot Houses run over summer, and it's kind of, you create tracks with people that you wouldn't normally get to be in a room with. And yeah, that really inspired me to kind of go on and take this seriously as a career, and then end up in tech doing music performance. And I did 3 years there, and then left to become self-employed as a full-time musician. And that's what I've been doing for the past 2 years, kind of just touring and writing. And
Yeah, it hasn't
yeah,
panned out too bad for you, has it?
it's been all right. Yeah, it's been
You're doing all
not
right.
bad.
Yeah, I've just seen recent posts about the hot house stuff as well. They're doing
Yeah.
again this summer and stuff. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out, folks. It looks really interesting. Right, that's interesting. That's it, how things got started with thievery. You know, God, stealing a guitar. Um,
I know.
right, so it seems to me like you had two kind of separate passions there that kind of came together in a funny way, where you liked creative writing by itself, you know, poetry and stories, and you
Yeah.
liked music. And so was it kind of just a natural coming together of the two things?
Yeah, 100%. Because the stories I was writing were really sad anyway, so that works really well in music. So whenever I started learning guitar, I naturally started to put words to it and put melodies to it as well. Especially because around that time, Soak was getting really big, around Derry, and they were a massive inspiration to me as well, because they were from Derry and doing massive things, and that's kind of what I wanted to do, was to be a part of that, be a musician, So
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Awesome. So, did you is your family a musical family, or is it something you're kind of alone in that sense?
yeah, my mom and dad, they don't play anything, but whenever we were younger, we were doing piano lessons, and I did cello lessons. My brother did French horn, so we were kind of in the more classical side of it, for a bit. I never practiced piano, and I'm completely regretting it, because it's one of my favorite instruments to write on now. And I wish I'd stuck at it. I wish I'd done the practice and did the grades, but that kind of fell apart for a bit, and I picked up guitar. And I think because I wasn't initially like in the grades kind of side of it. I think I found the more creative side of it straight away. So it was easier for me to start writing on it. And then it's only the past year that I've started really sitting down and writing on piano as well. But yeah, my family listen to a lot of music, but they don't play a lot of music. Yeah.
Right, right. So the passion got passed on more than anything, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's great that they kind of prioritize music as an education too, though, isn't it? Although you're not alone in that. I was forced to do lessons as well, and then I very quickly stopped them. And it was only later that I came back to the piano and kind of learnt my own way through YouTube that I
Yeah.
really got into it.
Yeah.
So it's funny that happens. Right, awesome. So yeah, we've kind of covered when your interest in writing already started. It sounds like it wasn't necessarily songs to begin with, and kind of just converged into that.
Yeah.
Can you remember the first song you wrote?
Yes, that was Closer to You, and it got released. I can't believe it got released, but I started writing that and brought it into the Nerve Centre for that kind of hot house thing, and we recorded it and put it on. Oh, what was it called? Something like 18 tracks, the album, or something like that. And
Right, right.
I was absolutely buzzing, because it was the first song that I'd cohesively put together, and it was out in the world. I would never, ever, ever show it to anybody in a million years now. I wouldn't play it, but it kind of shows that you kind of grow from the very start to the end of your songwriting process, really. Like, you're always learning, you're always building upon that skill that you have. And
Mhm.
yeah, so that song, it was obviously a love song, because that's the easiest thing to write about. Uh, but yeah, I was really, really proud of it, and when I finished that, it kind of spurred me on to start writing even more. I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I've heard that tune, and I can't remember if it's the same version you do with the Nerve Center or if you redid it with the tech or something like that.
Yeah,
But I remember hearing it as part of
I
something in the tech as well.
did it with Live at the Lockup in the first year tech, I think.
You did. That's
Yeah,
right. That's where I
yeah,
probably heard it again before as well. Look, that is not a bad first song at all.
yeah.
I'm kind of jealous. So I know you're saying you wouldn't play it in a million years now, but God, I would happily listen to it again.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose that brings me on to just a follow-up thing, which is, are there any lyrical skeletons in the closet that will never see the light of day? Any kind of earlier songs where you look back now and go, oh God, what was that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot. Even now, even songs that were written in the past couple of years, like there's songs that just don't fit what I do as a performer anymore. But I think if you have songs and you're not planning on releasing them for yourself, you should always put them up somewhere because somebody might find it and think it's the best song in the world and they want to use it, or they want to use it for sync on TV, radio, whatever. And you never have to play it, but you might get like a profit from it, which is nice. It's always nice whenever things come back around that you don't expect to come back around. So there's definitely a few, or probably a lot of songs that won't see the light of day as far as ROE goes, but they might kind of reappear in other places, I think. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, let no song go to waste. I like that idea. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I suppose we'll let's grill you on the writing process a bit then, and figure out how your brain ticks. So,
Yeah.
John Mayer, I love quoting John Mayer.
Yeah.
He said in an interview one time that finished songs are just the ideas that get off the ground. So, where do you normally get your ideas, and how does one get off the ground?
My songs usually start with a thought. Not always, but most of the time it's from an idea that I've had where I can't sleep and my brain is going 90 miles a minute and I just have to write down whatever lyric or whatever kind of creative thought comes to mind, and then I'll put that to good use whenever I feel like writing again. Because I'm very sporadic whenever it comes to writing. Like I don't have set days or set hours that I sit down to write. Like I kind of feel creative, so I make sure to sit down and write and make use of that time.
Hmm.
So it kind of comes from those thoughts, and I sit down and try and maybe come up with a chord progression. Sometimes I get really, really excited about a chord progression or like a wee lick that I haven't played before because I'm not an amazing guitar player. So whenever I come up with something kind of creative on the guitar, I'm always buzzing about it.
Do you just work
And
with like shapes and stuff like that, or how does it work
yeah,
in guitar?
like I've never been the most technical player, so I literally sit down and just play with shapes until something sounds cool. Um, I love melodies. Like melodies are my jam. So whenever I get to introduce them to the guitar, it's always cool because I don't know. I think I have an ear for melodies rather than the technical stuff, rather than working out what works in the key.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'll sit down, I'll have this bank of notes on my phone that I go through. Eventually come up with a chord progression, and then the kind of story of the song comes naturally a lot of the time, but sometimes I will sit down and I'll have a set thing that I want to write about just because it's affecting me or affecting people that I know, because a lot of the things that I write are really personal. So yeah, it kind of starts out like that, I think, most of the time. Not all.
Right. That's interesting because what you've kind of done there, I suppose, is hit the 2 points that they always talk about in the literary world. You hear Stephen King and Brandon Sanderson and stuff talking about it, is that there's two
Yeah.
kind of types of writers, and it seems like you're a bit of both, which is probably the case for most people, where
Yeah.
you're a bit of an explorer, where sometimes you're just sitting down to write to see what comes out.
Yeah.
And then other times you're kind of specifically sitting down to write a theme. You're planning ahead of time, saying, I'm
Yeah.
going to write about this. Does one occur more than the other?
Yeah, yeah, I think the topics come up naturally a lot of the time. just because writing for me is kind of like therapy. I don't know if that's healthy or not, but
It seems like a common answer, actually.
yeah, like it's the thing that helps my mental health. And that's why I love doing it, and I love sharing the songs with people because I know that nobody goes through anything alone, and that something that I write about will affect somebody else. So yeah, it's a weird one. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. Well, I'm going to grill you a little bit on your themes in a second as well, actually. So, right, okay. What's my next one? Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so without sounding too soppy, which I
Hmm.
usually tend to do when I'm talking about writing,
Yeah.
in class we always talk about how the creative process can be a bit of an emotional balancing act between the head and the heart.
Hmm.
The age-old discussion of instinct versus training, which you've mentioned a little bit already.
Yeah.
But how does that balance work in your own writing? So how do you balance this kind of instinct that you have for melodies and lyrics and ideas with the kind of the calculated part of your head that kind of knows how to craft a song for certain styles or
Yeah.
platforms or whatever?
I am a pop writer. I have accepted that I'm a pop writer.
That is a
Because
good thing. It's a
I
good
mean, I
thing.
like I know that I can write a good hook. But that's yeah, it's a weird one because you I think they kind of combine together whenever you are writing, because
Mhm.
obviously you want to be creative, and you want to be creative with what you're saying and the melodies that you choose, but in the back of my mind it's never like a it's like it's more of an instinct than a set thing where I sit down and be all, this song has to be 3.5 minutes because it has to get played on radio. It's more
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
just what I'm used to, um, is writing in that way, and that comes from practice as well. Is that I know that the basic structure of a pop song is verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. So usually my songs revolve around that, and
Mhm.
it's it comes naturally, and I think that you do pick up techniques and you do pick up structures along the way. I definitely wasn't as great at that at the beginning as what I am now, and I trust myself a lot more when it comes to it, because I know I know how to balance those creative tendencies alongside what works musically, I think. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, no, yeah, I would definitely agree by listening to your songs with that as well. That you probably write things that are just naturally your style anyway, aren't they? And then
Yeah.
they're going to fit you as an artist. And as you were saying, there are some songs that don't, so it's probably quite obvious to you when you've written something that is not going to be for you as a recording artist to release as well,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Um, right, okay. Well, the last thing I'll ask before we get our first song then is. Now, you've kind of mentioned you're not much of a routine person for writing anyway, and you like to be
Hmm.
quite sporadic about it. But
Yeah.
I've got a checklist here anyway, which I'm going to ask. So,
Hmm.
and just in regards to writing routines and stuff like that, is there a specific time of day you like to write?
Nighttime, most of the time, nighttime. If I'm trying to get a song done, um, if I have like a set time that I want to get a song done, if it's for a specific project, I will sit down during the day and try and write, but I always feel creative at nighttime. I don't know what it is. I think it's just a creative thing that most creative people just want to stay up at night and their head's buzzing with ideas when it shouldn't be. But yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
nighttime.
that seems like the most common thing. And the weird bit is that I'm kind of the opposite. I seem to be the exception of this rule, where I'm kind of like, I go to bed at 10 like an old man, and
Oh
I
God.
tend to get up at 6 like a crazy person. But I think it's for the same reasons that musicians stay up late. It's this kind
Yeah,
of idea of like, you're kind of alone when you've got peace, don't you? Because everyone's away and they're sleeping, and
yeah,
you've got time to think properly. There's no buzzing on your phone going off and stuff like
yeah,
that, and the dim light definitely helps too. I think there's something about the lighting, which I
yeah,
get in the morning as well. I still get my
yeah.
dim lighting. So yeah, I think that's why I'm a crazy morning person, for the same reasons. But no, that's interesting. Okay, what about a specific place you like to write? Is there anywhere that you tend to sit down and write more often than others?
Yeah, behind me.
Yeah,
Uh,
you seem to have a good setup there.
yeah, like I we rearranged our house during lockdown, so I have a desk that I can sit at and kind of just mess about with a guitar, or my Nord is plugged in behind me where I've made points of sitting down at it just to practice piano and practice getting better at it and work on technique. And I feel comfortable here now, I think. But it gets to be a bit much, especially during this year. It's been really hard to be creative in the same spot all the time. So we were down recording in Attica a while ago, and that kind of made me creatively like I was absolutely buzzing to come back and write again, because I was just out of the house for a while, and I think sometimes that's what you need, is just
It's like a
something to
change of
just
atmosphere and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, like, because it's hard to draw inspiration from the same four walls all the time every day, you know, so it's always important to get out and find new spaces that you can try and create in, and make sure that you're kind of looking after your brain just by leaving the house, you know. So
Oh yeah, 100%,
yeah,
100%. No, that's a really important point, isn't it? You know, the idea that, you know, we might have a comfortable spot we like to write in, but just simply changing the place you're writing in sometimes can just kickstart the creative process again,
yeah,
can't it? Um,
100%.
yeah, awesome. Okay, what about your favorite writing instrument? So you said you used to write on guitar more, but now you're switching to piano. Do you find that your songs are kind of different because of that?
Yeah, definitely. I know for a fact that I write differently on piano, even melody wise, because I'm more naive when it comes to the instrument, because I've been playing guitar now for a few years. I kind of know where things are, but with piano, because I haven't played it in so long, everything is new again, and it's really exciting to just sit down and work out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's been my jam for the past few months. I've absolutely loved sitting down at the piano and working out something. But I think the past week or so I've been playing guitar more, so it goes in between the two. But I'm not great at working to like a track through Logic or whatever. So whenever I sit down to
hmm
write it, it kind of has to be acoustic. I don't know what it is. I think it's just
hmm
the way that you can kind of ebb and flow how you go through the song. I think I'm not great at or coming up with melodies to a tempo. I don't know what that is, but it's the
Yeah,
way that
yeah.
my brain works. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
probably your kind of, maybe it's your kind of natural rhythm as well, if you playing and singing together and stuff,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because you're obviously quite good at doing that, you know, playing and singing at the same time. In fact,
Yeah.
you played multiple things at the one time with your live setup how it was before.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's really interesting. Okay. I suppose lastly is, do you have a method of like documenting ideas? So what if you get creative ideas in a really awkward place or time? What's the normal process?
I always document them, no matter what. If I'm in the middle of a crowd or on holiday somewhere, I will always write them down on the notes app on my phone. I
Mm.
have a bazillion notes of just one lines that I haven't looked at in like 2 years. And I'll always, whenever it comes to actual musical ideas like melodies and chords, I always put them in my voice notes on my phone, because I know that I will forget them if I don't put them somewhere. Um, and it's happened before where I'm in the middle of writing a song and I up with like a killer bridge or whatever it is, and I just forget to write it down and go back to the song the next day or the next hour, and it's gone. Like I just can't remember it, so I have to come up with something new. So I
It's one of the
always,
most frustrating things in the world, isn't it?
oh
It's
my God.
sometimes literally 5 seconds later I kind of forget. Sometimes I'll
Yeah,
play say it's even like a harmonic thing to do with chords or arranging or
yeah.
something, and you'll nail something and go, oh, what was that? And then you can't remember where your fingers were, and you're like, no. And yeah, even though
Yeah,
the Tenacious D song, I suppose, is all about that idea, isn't it? You know, they wrote the best song in the world and can't remember it, so they just
yeah,
write a tribute to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think
it's
the other side of it is that I like actually physically writing, um,
uh-huh.
more so because it helps me remember. I think that there's something scientific behind you actually writing down words that helps you remember what it is that you're writing down. So whenever it comes to learning songs, I think it helps to write out the lyrics and go through it that way. And it's also just nice to put pen to paper, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, there is something charming about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember there was a writing course I did with Anne McMaster, and one of her things was that she made you do 5 minutes of free writing at the start, and you had to use pen and paper because that way you can't go back and change things. You have to just kind of scribble it down, and you can't go back. It was a really funny process. I realized how bad my handwriting was then too. Right, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's get the first performance then. What have we got first?
I'm gonna do Room to Breathe first because there's a capo. So.
Right. Well, I'm going to get my lyric sheet up to grill you about this after because I've got so many questions about Room to Breathe.
Oh no.
Right, when you're ready, I'll mute myself back.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Shut my mouth, 'cause I don't know what might come out, and I run away right now. If it was okay, my tired bones keep trying to stay afloat, but I'm not so sure that I could find the strength. I need some room to breathe, 'cause I'm getting tired of holding my breath, and I don't know how to breathe when I'm in the bed that I've made for myself. Constant noise, I'm sorry I can't hear much. My deafening fears are still keeping me awake. With my shoulders back, don't show them I'm falling flat, no matter the cost of what this always takes. I need some room to breathe, 'cause I'm getting tired of holding my breath, and I don't know how to breathe when I'm in the bed that I've made for myself. I can't make sense of what is real when I'm not here, and I'm not here. I have forgotten how it feels to be so free when I'm not free, and I'm just a mountain caving in. After all this time, I've broken myself down, and I need some room to breathe, 'cause I'm getting tired of holding my breath, and I don't know how to feel when I'm in the bed that I've made for myself. I need some room to breathe, 'cause I'm getting tired of holding my breath, and I don't know how to feel when I'm in the bed that I've made for myself.
I was nearly going to ask the students to unmute and clap, but I thought, no, it'll be too awkward. Oh, someone did. Someone unmuted and clapped. Brilliant.
You.
Oh, we got a you as well. A you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that song. Absolutely love it. In fact, that is one of those ones where I had to come in and help out Liam with the strings and a couple of things for that one. And
Yeah.
so when you have to listen to a song over and over again, usually it drives you insane.
Yeah.
But this one didn't. This actually just got more catchier the more I had to listen to it during that time. And oh my god, hey, it's a fantastic tune. It's also one of those ones which I'm sure we've all experienced where you listen to a song several times, but it's only on like the 12th time for some random reason you just understand what a line is, and you go, oh, I know what that means now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where it just took me a second to get some of the lines. I was like, oh god, that's clever stuff. Right, so yeah, I've got a couple of questions. And by the way, folks,
Okay.
if anyone else has a question at any point or even about the songs, please feel free to do the wee hands up, and I'll come to you as well. We'll be doing the students' questions after, but if anyone has anything now, please feel free to ask. But, well, let me see. I've just got random notes scribbled over the lyrics here. So, this, I would assume I know what it's about anyway, to a degree. You know, it's some form of kind of mental exhaustion, I suppose, and you know, being tired about maybe something in particular. But funnily enough, I had written in my notes, COVID related, with like the lockdown of a question mark, because for some reason, did you write this one during lockdown?
I wrote it before lockdown, and it initially wasn't going to be released as a single.
Really? Right.
It would have gone on like an EP or something, but we weren't going to bring it out as like its own thing until COVID happened, and then it just felt like the right time because everybody was stuck at home and their heads were fried, and you couldn't do anything about it. So yeah, this song was the song that wasn't meant to be released. And so glad that I did because I got to do so many cool things because it came out, and there was loads of messages from people saying I relate to this so much. So that was just it was a really nice feeling, and I'm so glad that we brought it out. Yeah.
Right, cool. Well, I'm very glad too, because it's definitely one of my favorites, and it's a fantastic tune. And the parallels of the lockdown thing are just really, it's just
Yeah.
a crazy coincidence, isn't it?
Uh,
But yeah, because I had a feeling you had written it before, and I was like, there's no way that this is
yeah.
just a coincidence, isn't it? But yeah, even I love certain things about this. When you're writing lyrics, there's always, you're very good at kind of very intricate kind of wordplay and stuff, right? Tight phrasing, but you also use space really well, and that's what I love about your songs. You're not afraid to actually just stop and give it a second before you sing the next line
Yeah.
and things like that. You know, I love the chorus in this too. You know, you've the way you rearrange the old kind of saying of, you know, you've made your bed, now lie in it. To
Yeah.
you know, I don't know how to feel when I'm in the bed that I've made for myself. You know, it's a lovely
Yeah.
thing to kind of rearrange kind of old classic sayings like that too, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I really love that, and
Thank
you know,
you.
just to point out a few other things, just to embarrass you further. You know, I love some of the imagery you use, and it's in this song, but it's in quite a lot of your stuff. I've noticed where it's like that old kind of writing technique for like literature and films and stuff like that, where it's, you know, show don't tell.
Yeah.
And a lot of your stuff is that you're kind of showing us something like in terms of an image, and we get that from the image. You know,
Yeah.
things like, you know, with my shoulders back, don't show them I'm falling flat, no matter the cost of what this always takes. To me, that was like, oh God, I can actually see the image of that, of
Yeah.
you trying to keep up this kind of appearance and stuff. And I'm sure everyone on the planet relates to that in some sort of way.
Yeah.
Um, did this come from anything in particular, or was it, you know, you don't have to be too personal about it or anything, but, you know, did it come from anything in particular, or can you remember how the idea started?
Yeah, I think it came about whenever I was really overwhelmed. I was doing really well with shows and stuff. So I was always kind of doing something, and I got back home and just I felt drained, like I couldn't process anything. I just felt like any tiny thing that I had to do was the biggest thing and the biggest issue. So it came about from that feeling and the realization that like I need time and I need space to just breathe and look after myself. And I'm one of those people that always worry about everybody else. Like I'm always trying to please everybody else and kind of put their needs before mine. So this song, the way that I was saying about me using music as therapy is kind of summed up in this song because it's very much about that. It's very much about feelings that I couldn't express through any other way or any other means. So yeah, it's about just taking time for yourself, and I completely felt that whenever I was writing it. That's what I mean whenever I say that these these songs kind of come about in their own, or the topics come about in their own, because it's just things that we go through as humans, that these things come up that you don't expect to come up, or problems or issues, and I love just sitting down and making sense of them, even just for my own mental health sake,
Yeah, I suppose that's where the therapeutic element comes into that you were talking
Yeah.
about. And yeah, I mean, God, I mean, I'll ask you in a wee second actually about your themes and stuff, but even with the title of this one, Room to Breathe, it kind of gives you everything you need to know already. And
Yeah.
it was a double-edged sword at the start, because I was like, needing room to breathe is already kind of a good like figurative language, creates this image in your head of needing room to breathe, but it's also this kind of double-edged sword where like it's literally like how anxiety affects us sometimes is not being able to breathe. But then I was like, but with the lockdown, it's like a triple-edged sword now, if that's even possible, because like now you've got this idea of confined space and needing more room to breathe, and I was like, God, it's really interesting. But your themes anyway, do you have any kind of common themes that you tend to go to? Is there a universal link between all your songs in some sort of way, do you think?
Yeah, they're all very personal. Anything that I write for myself feels like it has to be personal. I've written songs that, like, for co-writes and stuff like that, that I don't expect to use for myself, for my own career. I couldn't find the word. Where like I've just been writing about a topic because that's what the brief just needs to be filled. But whenever it comes to things that I want to sing myself, it's always personal. It's always about people I know around me, or an existential crisis that I'm
We all have them. We
having.
all have them.
um and it's about things that we can't control usually as well. I find some sense of calm in writing about something that, because you can control the writing, you can control what you say about it, you control everything about the song, but you can't control the message of the song. You can't control things that are happening around you. So yeah, it's widely, all my songs are about mental health and about human nature and things that happen to us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's so good though is that, it's obviously a very important thing to sing about, but in each of your songs, you tend to have a very narrow field of focus, which is great, where you pick a certain topic within this framework of mental health to sing about each time.
Yeah.
So they all do feel like they're tackling different parts of mental health, which I really love.
Yeah.
Aiden's got a question. So yeah, go for it, dude.
I was curious, like over lockdown, obviously it's impacted everyone in very different ways. How do you think it sort of impacted your writing process, and do you think it's a positive or negative sort of impact?
I think that it's definitely been a positive thing for me. It's one of the only positive things that come out of this for me, is having the time to sit down and write and not have to worry about getting the songs done between shows or between having to go somewhere. And yeah, I've found it to be really nice just to have the time to sit down and kind of go through not strategies, but techniques of writing, and kind of have fun and experiment with things that I wouldn't have the time to, or feel like I could in the time frame that I had.
You've got a bit
So
more room to breathe, dare I say it? Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna do it. I'm
very
gonna do it.
good. Yeah. No, I'm away. I'm away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
So
peaked there, but
yeah.
that's
So
fascinating.
definitely, yeah. It's been a massively positive impact on my writing. And I've got to sit down and do co-writes with people that I wouldn't normally have had the time to do as well, which has been really nice. And you learn off what they do as songwriters as well, which is really interesting. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome, great question too. All right, hold on a second. I'll jump on to my next one because I'm realizing we're at quarter two, so we've got about, well, probably less time than I realized left. And I want to make sure we get all our student questions in and stuff too. So, where are we in my questions? Oh yeah, so this is the big one, the big bad of the writing world,
Mm-hmm.
which comes up in every conversation, which is writer's block.
Yes.
Now I do have my own very strong thoughts on this, but I always like to hear other people's kind of interpretations of it. It tends to be talked about like a disease that we all catch in some sort of way, as a creative disease.
Yeah.
But So have you ever experienced kind of like, what you would know to be writer's block, and how do you normally manage that?
I take myself away from the situation completely. I know that some people try to work through it and that works for them. I need to stop writing. Otherwise, I will just fry my brain going over the same line over and over and over again. And I've caught myself doing it. And maybe 20 minutes in, I'm just like, no, I need to stop and do something else. So I try and do something that makes me feel creative, whether it's going out on a walk or rock climbing, even though I can't do that in a minute, and sitting down, watching films, reading books, anything that's going to spark inspiration. I think, and taking regular breaks whenever you're writing as well is really healthy, I think, because you just get stuck in a place sometimes. Even if I'm like on a roll writing, I will take a break because I know that I need it. And if I get so far, I will get writer's block. I will just get tired and not just want to finish the song instead of taking my time and going through each line and making each line the best that it can be.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of like diminishing returns almost, isn't it? If you spend too long at it,
yeah,
you'll start to go.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So I think for me, it works taking myself away from it and doing something else. But for you, it might be working through it. It might be sitting down and listening to songs that you feel kind of fit what you're trying to write. Like, I find always helps as well. Like, I love finding new music for like New Music Friday or whatever, and recommendations from friends. Songs that I haven't listened to yet, but really, really want to. Is another favorite of trying to get over writer's block. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, and I can imagine that really working for a lot of folk too. And that is the word of the day, isn't it? That everyone's going to deal with this differently,
Yeah.
and we're all going to have different approaches to it. But I can imagine that one you've just mentioned being quite common, actually. That it's forcing something is never really a good thing, isn't it? You do have to kind of know when to step away, and that can be the hardest thing sometimes. Actually, is just stepping away from something that you're actively getting frustrated with too.
Yeah.
Is that something you've had to practice? Getting good at kind of walking away when you know to.
Yeah, definitely. I used to stay up until God knows how early in the morning, trying to write and trying to finish songs. But I've realized that you get to a certain point where you're just working from nothing, like you've no energy and you want to go to bed. Like, so I I go to bed at about 1 now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that spark is a kind of a finite resource, isn't it? You do have to be
Yeah.
quite careful with it at times.
Yeah,
Awesome,
definitely.
awesome. Okay. So before I get on to, oh no, sorry, actually, no, I've already asked you the things. Before I get on to my last kind of couple of questions, then will we get your second performance out of the way? Hey,
Yeah.
Thomas, isn't it?
Yeah.
Awesome, because yeah, a couple of the questions I want to ask are probably related to it actually, or your lyrics in general. So, once again, I will mute when you're ready. And then, folks, I'll ask a couple more, and then we'll get on to some student questions as well.
Hey, Thomas, with your short ass, I will call you out everywhere that we can. And I promise to be a bitch of a bully so that my friends think I'm funny at your expense. You wear those loose clothes, you know we don't approve. I wanna show the parts of you we wanna see. And what you don't know is that you're breaking all our rules. You won't accept our point of view. We can't grade you. Hey, Thomas, I thought we had this discussion. Your definition of disgusting on our lips. And we're perfect. We get to tell you how to think. Your imperfections make you weaker than you know. And yet you walk around here as if you own the place, as if you have the right to say we're wrong, but who says you're right? You lift it up and try to look from where we're coming from. We're obviously better, son. We're always gonna win. And although we can't fix you right now, we've got the high ground. You're way below where you have stood before. Don't take advice when it falls down. You're nothing more than the girl we built you up to be. It's obvious to say, hey, Thomas, I thought you promised you'd be good. You've opted out of what you always should say yes to. And you don't allow this. Your reputation's at its end, my friend. Your modesty has let you down for the last time. But I wear those loose clothes. I know they don't approve. I won't show the parts of me they won't see. And what I do know is that I'm breaking all your rules. I won't accept your point of view. You can't correct me. And although you can't fix me right now, I've got the high ground. I'm way above where I have stood before. Won't take advice when it falls down. I'm something more than the girl you built me up to be. It's obvious to say, hey, Thomas.
Woo! Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I love that tune. Absolutely love it. And this is one of them ones too, where the production on this is great on the actual single as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Right. Okay. So yeah, a couple of torturous questions for you. You've obviously referred to this as a big kind of FU to bullies at times as well, I've heard you say, which you definitely get straight off the bat. So yeah, I suppose this is the two sides of lyric writing that I love talking about most, which is the language we use and then the kind of patterns and the kind of mechanical side of things. So we'll talk about the language first then, which is common, I suppose, throughout all your repertoire of songs. But you've got a really nice balance of kind of figurative language and, literal language. Is that a kind of conscious choice, or is this just something that happens naturally when you're writing lyrics? Do you just get a kind of balance off the cuff?
Yeah, like it becomes a natural thing. I think at the start you definitely work on it. You work on trying to get metaphors that sound nice and technical stuff like that. But eventually it becomes a natural thing where you're just switching between the two. And literal writing is what I'm working at the minute because I find it to be really fascinating. I just love like blatant lines. Phoebe Bridgers is really good at this, where she just she says how she feels and that's it. Like there's no hiding behind metaphors or nice words or anything. And I love that. Like I love just the brutal honesty of lines that really relate to you, I think. And the my writing changes all the time. It depends on what I'm listening to. At the minute it's a lot of indie stuff, so I'm writing very indie, and they in indie music it's a lot of literal stuff. So yeah, it changes, but the metaphorical things I think are always there just because it's my style of writing. But I'm trying to write more literal just because I think it's a nice challenge, and I think that I love that style. So yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like I think there's a common misconception that sometimes you've got to be more creative, you've got to be more metaphorical and stuff like that. But I think there's something so poetic about getting straight to the point sometimes.
Yeah.
And I totally get that when you said about Phoebe Bridges as well. I've been listening to her a lot recently, and some of her lyrics just take my breath away. And it's just because she's just stating facts a lot of the time. And you just go, oh God, it's the way she states it. And so I can, and having heard, one or two of your new stuff coming down the line, I can see how you're using that tool really well already, which is awesome. Brilliant. So yeah, I suppose the other side of things now, which is the more mechanical side of lyric writing. In terms of like patterns, phrasing, rhythm, and stuff like that, is this another conscious choice of yours? Because a song like Hey Thomas, for example, there is real clear, concise rhythm to the lyrics and how you've crafted this together. There is no point or line where I go, oh, that didn't fit with the rest of it. It all feels very clean and calculated, not in a bad way, but in a very kind of rhythmic way.
Yeah. It depends on the song. Definitely with Hey Thomas, especially with what the guitar is doing. The melody really lends itself to that and works really well. intertwined with that. So it's always like melody is one of my favorite things. Like I've said it before, and rhythm as well. Like I find it so fascinating whenever artists use like really cool melodies, or like they use their voice as kind of this like pattern. I don't know, like drums for the voice. I don't know. But
like a percussive kind of
yeah, like
to it, yeah.
percussive, that's the word. Yeah. As like a percussive thing. And I'm always like improving that as well. I think melody is something that you can improve on over time. And just finding it faster than what you would have when you started writing. Yeah, it's really fun to play with. It's not a conscious choice, I don't think. Sometimes melody, I'm always thinking of melodies. My brain is always like, my partner Ethan would tell you he's probably going to kill me because like I go around the house just singing melodies myself because it's just coming to my brain. And it's I think it's a personal thing. And it's one of those things that you learn over time as well, what melodies suit you and what melodies suit your voice. My voice went really low there. But
it might have broke oh.
So it's one of those things that you can learn as well. And yeah, I think I'm getting better at it. And the style that I'm writing now compared to whenever I wrote Hey Thomas is a lot different. It's a lot more conversational. And I kind of go between the two. I think if I'm writing something really pop, I'll go like very rhythmic, very on the nose melody. But if I'm writing something that's a lot more poetic and kind of more flowy, I think the melody always lends itself to that, and it'll find it. Like you'll never be writing really a melody that doesn't fit. Like you'll know yourself. From your instincts what works and what doesn't work. So yeah, I think it has become a natural thing just to find what works with whatever you're doing instrumentally wise.
Yeah. They do say if if melodies are obviously rhythm and pitch, like harmony and rhythm together, that rhythm's the thing that's kind of built into us more instinctually as humans as well. So it makes sense what you're saying, where you're like, you will feel that in the right way, and you're not going to write a melody that is, completely outside of the rhythm of the song as well, which is interesting. I suppose just lastly on this one, it's a very satirical song as well, isn't it? It took me a couple of listens to kind of get the first couple of paragraphs, or the first couple of verses, where I was like, oh my God, hold on, it's like a mirrored perspective. You're not singing to the bully about what they've done to you. You're actually singing from the perspective of the bully in a lot of ways, saying your short ass hair will call you out everywhere we can. I promise to be a bitch of a bully. And I was like, oh, I get it now. Sometimes it really does just take me a couple of listens. How did this one start? Because there's obviously the repeating, hook of Hey Thomas, almost like a letter to someone or something like that, like a direct perspective to someone. How did this one start? Just out of curiosity.
This was a very angry song when I started writing it. I had just left secondary school, and in secondary school I was picked on because I had short hair and it was ginger, and there was a guy in my year called Thomas. So anytime,
so Thomas is a real person.
So Thomas is a real person, yeah. And anytime I'd walk in the hallways, like they'd be all, "Hey Thomas," because I looked like their friend Thomas or whatever it was. And
so Thomas wasn't the bully.
Thomas was just a guy hanging out with all these guys that were.
Right. Okay. This is making even more sense.
Yeah. So whenever it came to writing the song, this was one of those songs that I decided to be really literal with. Just because it was how I was feeling, and I was just really angry about this. Like I think I had a day where I was just thinking back about it and just was not for taking it. So this song came about, and Hey Thomas is what was used in the hallways, so I used it in the song, and it got a really good reaction, and I'm buzzing with it. And that's the kind of the song that made me realize that it doesn't matter what people think, or people that you used to know but don't talk to anymore think, because if you're creating art, it should be personal. It should be it should be something that hits home. And it made me realize that no matter how personal the song, I think I should put it out there because somebody will relate to it. And it might get a nice reaction. Who knows? So.
Yeah. I would say a lot of people related to this one, and and we're kind of in the generation now where it's like it's good to talk about this stuff, and songs is one of the best ways to do that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's really interesting hearing the backstory to that one, because you can read the lyrics now, and it's one of the things where sometimes I like to be left in mystery a bit with a song, and other times I do like to hear what it's about, and it makes you listen to it in a completely kind of flip perspective now, and I'm going, oh, I think this is different to what I thought it was initially.
Yeah.
Interesting. Right, I'll tell you what, I'm going to jump onto the student questions now before I go any further with my own ramblings. I'll just check in case there's anything else I wanted to cover beforehand. Oh, well, sorry, I've got one more. I've got one more thing I want to ask before we jump on to the students. Yeah, we should have enough time. So I've come across a lot of students who will say that writing music is not something that comes naturally to them. But I'm also a big advocate, obviously, for writing being a craft and a skill that we can develop, which you've talked about as well. So in the past, have you used any approaches or techniques to improve your own writing? Do you have any advice for those students who might be struggling to find confidence in their own songs?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think writing is the same as playing an instrument. You just have to practice at it and you get better at it. It's like a muscle, like you just have to keep working. And trust your instincts whenever it comes to a song. If something doesn't fit melodically or lyrically, then it probably doesn't fit. Like it just, there's no way you shouldn't be pigeonholing things into songs just because you want them to be there. Find a creative way around that of including what you want to say without jeopardizing the actual song. And yeah, don't be afraid to experiment with different techniques and find what works for you. There's loads of like YouTube videos on like how to write, and everybody has their own perspective and everybody has their own way of writing, so you just have to find yours. I don't think anybody is incapable of writing. I just think that people haven't given it a chance yet. Make every line as impactful as possible. This is something that I've only learned recently. I was working with Kieran Lavery and we had a big talk about this, where you never want to feel like you're wasting lines. It's fine to have filler lines whenever you're writing, just to get like the melody in the song. But I think whenever it comes to the actual song, you never want to be going back and regretting not saying something different or just throwing away lines because you want to get the songs finished. Yeah, and I think you don't have to be the best at your instrument to write a great song. And that's always something that you should remember, that you don't have to be the best in your field. You don't have to be the best guitar player in the world or best vocalist. You work to your capabilities, and something special will always come with that. Especially like if you're working within your vocal range or whatever, like your vocal range is unique to you, so you know what works for you. And I think some of the best songs come from that, like from an experience and just messing around with writing. And also, if you think of an idea, write it down straight away or record it straight away. Don't forget it. That's one of the rookie mistakes that I'm still learning, is just write down everything. It doesn't matter if you think it's a bad idea, like just write everything down and make a judgment whenever it comes to writing. Yeah, so you don't forget anything, because that's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, do not let good ideas go to waste, folks. And similar to what you're saying with the lines as well, let every line be kind of useful, and don't let them go to waste either. And I couldn't agree more actually with everything you were saying, and that is probably something that's really common actually that I would come across, where if I'm writing my own songs, I'm wasting loads of lines. I know that I am, but I won't go back and correct them. Whereas if I'm listening to the student songs or someone else who sends me a song, it's very easy to spot those lines very quickly, especially if a song's really good and you're like, this is a great song, but those 1 or 2 lines, I know you can do better on them. But it's really hard to see that in your own writing sometimes, isn't it? You have to be very self-critical. But yeah, and also just what you said there about the idea of writing being like training a muscle. You know, they always say the mind's a muscle, and I think that's a fantastic thing as well. And there's you know, the best way to learn how to write a song is to write more songs, isn't it? And there was even, oh God, and I'll read this out to finish off because I love this quote actually. It was it Pat Pattison? If anyone doesn't know Pat, he's the guy who teaches lyric writing at Berkeley, and well, in fact, it was him and Brandon Sanderson kind of agreed, and somebody was like, I hereby grant you permission to write crap. The more the better. Remember, crap makes the best fertilizer. So, you know, do not be afraid to write crap songs as well, folks. You know, it's all training at the end of the day. You'll get something out of it. But yeah, okay, I'm going to end my own ramblings there now and turn it over to the students who've got some questions to ask before we finish up. So, let me see, who am I coming to first? Where have I got them written down? Here we are. I've got too many notes. I'd say we'll come to Sarah Jean Campbell first. So Sarah's got a question. Do you want to go ahead there, Sarah?
So my question was basically like, how in an industry that's become so oversaturated, especially in like the kind of genre you write in, how do you make sure that the songs you're writing are like unique to you and so like recognizable? Because that's one of the things I noticed immediately when I listened to your songs. I was like, there's so many wee lines and so many kind of like things you do where I'm like, that I recognize it immediately as something that you have done.
Yeah. I write what I know. I write what makes me feel something. I don't try to be somebody that I'm not, because I think that if you try and do that, you're setting yourself up to fail. You're trying to reach a height that like you're on a different plane. I don't know if that makes sense, but like it's finding what's unique to you just comes with time. It comes with practice. It comes with keeping at it, keeping writing, finding wee things that work for you, wee techniques, and just write what you know. Find your own path whenever it comes to writing, and the rest will come naturally. Whenever it came to a sound, me and Liam were just really into Jack Garrett at the time. And really, really vibed off that. So the whole electro pop thing that came from that really defined my sound as production wise. But it's changing now. Like everything that I'm writing, I was saying, is very indie. It's very different from what I was writing. So things that might be unique to you then might not be relevant as you grow as a writer. And don't be afraid to change as a writer either. Like there's no point in sticking to one sound because people know you for that sound. You need to grow as an artist, and if that means changing sound or changing performance or changing the way that you write, if you want to do that, then do that. Like it's all about fulfillment. It's all about keeping yourself happy, you know. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. And good question too, sir. So yeah, next I suppose we'll come to Joseph. So Joseph, do you want to go ahead there?
All right, Ro. I'm just wondering, what was it like working with Snow Patrol and specifically Gary Lightbody?
It was amazing. Yeah, it was the best experience because I wasn't expecting it. The was one of the big things, and whenever it happened, being on the road with them, it felt like one big family. Like they made it feel like one big family. Like the crew were so helpful, band members so helpful. Gary was just about all the time to chat to, and yeah, it was really nice getting to know them as people and not as like somebody on the TV. So it's just, yeah, that was the most amazing experience. And Gary's just such a nice dude. Yeah, so.
Just to plug your other chat actually, if anyone's interested, you can check out Ro and Gary chatting about songwriting as well. If you just Google it, I'm pretty sure it's one of the first to come up. But yeah, they did something there where it's just the two of them talking about songwriting. So yeah, definitely check that out. Awesome, thanks, Joseph. So yeah, next we'll come to Laura. So Laura's got a question. You want to go ahead?
My question was, as a female artist, do you think it was harder to get your music heard or taken seriously in such a male-dominated industry?
I think that good music in general always gets heard. Like, good music will always find its way to somebody. It will always be heard. But there is massive disparity in Irish radio at the minute and in festival lineups. It's a long and slow process of people realizing that they need to take action on gender equality across the board. Um, as a female, I think I find myself being like a token female in a lineup a lot, which isn't the best feeling. But the main thing to do is just keep at it. Make sure that your thoughts are heard on the issue. Make sure that you're advocating for it. And yeah, I think the thing about good music is that, like, if you're writing good songs, they'll always find their way to the right people. If you push them, like if you put in the work to do that. And I don't think I find difficulty in that aspect because I've been slaving away for the past 3 years, making sure that my career is kind of steadily going, ticking away. But yeah, just keep at it and make sure that you're aware that there is disparity, that there is a problem. Make sure that you're like just be aware of it and try and make it better. I mean, it's not up to us as females, it's up to the radio people and the festival people and people that pick the lineups. So yeah, it's something that will get better over time, but at the minute it is a big issue and you do feel it as an artist gigging. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, no, brilliant question. And then just to add on to that, I think this is why it's so important that there's artists like you as well in the kind of industry, slowly climbing up and stuff as well. It will add more to the whole kind of fight for this stuff. So yeah, no, great question. Okay, we'll come to Sarah next. So Sarah, do you want to go ahead there? Maybe Sarah's not here. We'll let us check actually. Is Sarah here? Oh no, she's not in. She might not got into the meeting. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna jump on to PJ if PJ's here. I might come back to Sarah's at the end there. So PJ, are you there? Hello. I can hear someone trying to unmute. No, I can't see either of them. I'll tell you what. I'm just going to ask Sarah's one actually before we finish up things. I did really enjoy this as well. So, when songwriting, which do you focus on first? Is it lyrics or melody? Do you have an approach that works every time, or does that change?
It definitely changes. As I was saying before, it usually starts with a lyrical idea that I've written down, but it does change. Sometimes it's a melody, sometimes it's chords on the guitar or on the piano. Sometimes the song doesn't come together for weeks. I know for a fact that Phoebe Bridgers, she's interesting because she picks lines or she comes up with lines over months and months and then comes to the song and then it's fully finished. So yeah, it changes all the time and the length of how long it takes to make a song changes all the time. I don't think there's any consistency in that. But eventually they all come to the fore. So yeah.
That's really, and I remember someone saying me one time that you've got to let those ideas stew in your head for a while first. It's like a good stew. If you let it sit and simmer, by the time you sit down to actually use them and try to write the song, it's much easier because it's all been thought out ahead of time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. Well, I tell you what, we'll just finish up now with one last thing, I suppose. Then, unless does anyone have any questions before I finish up with one last thing? Anyone want to ask anything in particular? Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'll finish up with this last bit then, which is, where have I got it? Yeah, so you're working on an album now as well, like something new. So can you tell us anything about it, your new kind of set of songs?
I'm terrified to put them out in the world.
How so?
They're very personal, very different to what I have been writing before. But I'm so excited just to change up the live setup even as well. Yeah, they kind of follow that vein of being very literal, which is where the scary part comes from, because it means that there's no hiding behind nice metaphors or any of that. So, but yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for something new. I've been writing away for the past year, and we haven't put anything out in nearly a year. So it's really exciting to think about putting them out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? And obviously, I haven't heard one of the songs, and I've been sworn to secrecy, obviously. But I've heard one of them, and it's a very different approach, and I love it. I think it's a really good kind of move for you as well. I'm really excited to hear the rest of the stuff and what you're going to do next with it. So, but anyway, we will wrap up there, folks. So if no one has anything else to ask, I suppose we will unmute and do a big awkward clap for her online here. We'll do that first. So thanks for coming in, Ro.
Oh God.
Anyone at all? Come on.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in again. And so if anyone wants to come to the next part as well, now at 11:30, I'm going to start another meeting, and we've got 2 artists and 2 bands to listen to. We're going to listen to their songs, just get a quick chat about them, and they are fantastic songs. So yeah, I will see anyone who's interested in that meeting now. And yeah, thanks again for coming in, Ro. We will definitely do this again soon.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Cool.
Chat to you all later, folks. Goodbye.
Bye.